Okay, so what we are going to be talking about, like I said before, is to bridge silos within the enterprise and tangibly represent your business processes. And we're going to see how you can use smart contracts to do it. Um, First of all, just a little bit about Digital Asset. And we were founded in 2014. We created Daml, the smart contract language that is, of course, in use at many of the clients that you see at the bottom, all the logos. The Australian Securities Exchange is replacing their entire post-trade settlement platform, equity settlement platform, with a Daml application hosted on the blockchain. And then, of course, there are several other use cases, not only in the financial services industry, but in pharmaceuticals and healthcare as well, and in supply chain and track and trace as well. Daml now is open source. The key here is that Daml also runs on multiple ledgers. So Daml, we make the smart contract language, and we've integrated that so that it runs seamlessly without any changes on most of the popular blockchain platforms out there. In addition, and what's most important for this webinar today is that it also runs on databases. So databases like AWS SQLDB, Microsoft's SQL Server, Postgres, you name it, adapters are available to run on the database. And of course, the other thing that we do is what we call Project Dabble, which is our Dabble cloud environment, which helps startups get to market faster and obviously enterprises so that they can prototype their applications quickly before they go to market. Um, as everybody's aware, it all started with the thought of reducing silos between enterprises. Multiple applications, multiple companies working with each other, for example, in supply chain or in finance or in healthcare, between hospitals and insurance firms. Everybody exchanges a lot of information. And traditionally, each of these enterprises have maintained data silos, their own data silos, exchanging information through various methodologies like APIs and file transfers and all of that stuff. That leads to expensive reconciliation procedures that have to be done on continuously, sometimes in a real-time basis. Obviously, it leads to multiple latencies in and as well as customer experience issues. So any one of us who's made a bill payment online for a credit card knows that you make a payment and then it shows up on your online screen maybe the next day, or in the worst case sometimes even a couple of days late. So why does all of this happen? Because each of these applications and enterprises have their own data silos, and they have to continuously sync with each other to make sure the copy of the data that they have is the latest copy. What's important for this webinar is that this concept of reducing, of integrating and bringing all of these different enterprises on the same data platform is also true within an enterprise. Um, Within an enterprise, as Ayush pointed out, most of their work is around enabling enterprises to engage on next generation analytics and artificial intelligence initiatives. And each of these enterprises have multiple applications that are required to execute a single business process. Each of these applications obviously has their own data silos and their own mechanisms to keep in sync with each other. And that's what we are going to say. That's what we're going to see. Addressing with Daml and smart contracts. Typically, this is what happens in any enterprise. There are multiple applications. They are linked together by a virtual pipeline. If you are asked for a business process of your enterprise, it's very unlikely that you'll have a latest copy, that you can show or you can produce. Most often, it's in the form of video diagrams, process flow diagrams, multiple architecture diagrams. And the fact is that as soon as you produce those artifacts, they're out of date because something has changed in production. And most of the times, each of these applications is searching for that single source of truth, and they have to keep reconciling with each other and syncing up to reduce errors, making sure that the data they have matches with the data that the other application has. And obviously, there are many operational problems. In this case, it's a simple thing. If there is a broken process, there's typically a pretty comprehensive process that has been put in place by enterprises to figure out where the break is. How do you make sure that the data pipeline gets up and running again, and bring all those business processes in sync again. And this obviously affects your business intelligence and AI initiatives. Traditionally, any data initiative, or if you consider the data pipeline, you start with aggregating all of the information in one place from all of these applications. Then you have to reconcile and clean all of this information, because most often data definitions don't match. You don't have the same picture of a business process in multiple applications. Who's right? You know, whose data is outdated. So you have to figure all that out, clean, build all of those rules in place, and finally arrive at a clean picture of the data. Then you enrich the data with data from other sources that might be required, like metadata, or a customer process might require data from the CRM to be imported and made part of the big overall data landscape. Finally, you get to your analysis, which is running operational reporting, running business intelligence, and running artificial intelligence initiatives as well, or predictive analytics. The fact is that 45 to 60% of your effort is spent on the first two phases, and that's what we'll address using smart contracts today. And some examples of the virtual pipeline. Anything that you see, wherever there's a business process, the problem exists. So if you have a claim, it runs through multiple applications, runs through multiple enterprises even. um, Anytime somebody's applying for a loan, applying for a mortgage, it has the same thing. There's a mortgage origination system, there's a underwriting system, then you have the customer experience systems, then you have the e-statementing systems, and all of that stuff. Data has to be passed back and forth between them. And all of these applications are constantly reconciling with each other to make sure there is a consistent single version of the truth. Traditional approaches, obviously, like I mentioned, each of them are keeping in sync through APIs, data transfers, etc. But obviously, they are not enough, because they don't solve the underlying problem. They help you overcome the problem that has been caused by data silos, but they don't actually solve the problem of having data silos in the first place. And Daml, as Levi is going to show you in a couple of minutes, it solves that by providing this layer across applications, which allows you to mutualize your business process in the form of Daml smart contracts, where each of the application can plug into this Daml smart contract layer and execute the process. And for the first time with this model, you see that your business process is reflected in the Daml smart contracts that you write. So at any point in time, you could look into your Daml smart contract layer and easily figure out what your business process looks like, who are the stakeholders, what kind of data are they sharing, and if there is a process break, where that break happened. And now the result is that the pipeline is now real. Each of these applications may still have their own databases for various operational reporting, analysis, Chinese wall purposes. But now you also have a golden source of smart contract data, which has been enabled by Daml. And this smart contract data is what is then used to drive your enterprise reporting, enterprise analytics, and all of those initiatives which affect business performance. And obviously, you don't spend you ideally you won't spend any time on aggregating and reconciling, but practically you might, but it reduces that effort dramatically. So Daml, Levi's going to go into that a little bit more detail later on. But it's the smart contract language, which has granular, already built-in mechanisms for privacy, disclosure, and authorization. And it also obviously has a rights and obligations model, which allows you to treat any of your enterprise business processes in terms of digital assets. So think about a credit card for example. Your credit card is a digital asset. Any actions on it, applying for a credit card, approving a credit card, issuing an e-statement on a credit card, raising a fraud on a credit card, each of these activities is being done on that underlying digital asset, which is the credit card. That's what Daml allows us to do when we model that business process as a smart contract layer. Each of your business process is converted to a series of actions that are being taken on a digital asset, thereby allowing any stakeholder, whether it's an application, a business user, multiple enterprises, being able to pull that digital asset up and figure out what's going on with that. And this I already covered. Daml runs on multiple ledgers, so you've got a choice. The one that is most important for us is on the right-hand side here, where Daml runs on databases, which is most likely the scenario that you'll use within the enterprise.